Hi, this is Jonathan Davis in association with CardRunners.com. Today is going to be part one of a brand new video series, as I always say. Probably should say something different when I start my videos. It's a bit boring. Basically, this video series is going to be the same idea as the last one in looking at play from earlier sessions. This is actually one of my videos that I made for CardRunners. And what I want to do is I want to break down the flaws and just really, not necessarily how wrong I was, but talking about my analysis from back then and compared to the analysis I have now, specifically in hands where I would disagree with my analysis basically now. A decent amount of it's still going to be the same, but there are definitely a reasonable amount of hands in this video and the second part of this video that I'm using. For reference, it's my first live session, and I believe it's called PLO Live Sessions Part 1, PLO 100. But anyway, the idea here is I'm going to show you the analysis, or play back the analysis from the video, and then after that I'm going to discuss how I feel like my analysis has changed and just really my thought process in general. And so I want to play back the analysis for this very first hand on table 1, the left table.
Against this particular player, I have played him a little bit, but because my hand plays infinitely better in a 3-bet pot, and I don't, that's kind of interesting, I'll obviously be folding to a 4-bet, but mostly just because this guy has been aggressive so far, I actually have really no reads. I prefer just taking advantage of my position in the initiative, and I don't plan on getting 4-bet light ever until I have more reads. And so I think it's a very easy 3-bet, and I prefer 3-bet this kind of hand. It plays much better in a 3-bet pot with position, with initiative rather, instead of just flatting and having to make my hand, basically.
Okay, so as you just heard, that was my analysis from several years ago. And the first thing I really want to talk about is I very much disagree that this hand plays, as I quote, plays infinitely better in a 3-bet pot than a single raise pot. And while this hand does play better in that when we flop a weakish hand, or not even a weakish hand, but a reasonable equity, say we flopped, like, I'm just trying to think of a good board texture example. Like, say the board's like King 10 of hearts with some other card. Like, we're obviously just going to bet getting in the money. But, I mean, that's still an incredibly profitable spot in a single raise pot. And even more so because now we actually have the potential to have other players in the pot. So, I don't really necessarily agree with this 3-bet anymore, especially because of the small blind who's a weaker player. And this hand really doesn't accomplish that much by 3-betting it as far as, like, for creating ranges in 3-bet pots. Like, it plays very poorly versus a 4-bet. I would have to fold, and I really would not like to fold this for double-suited connected hand. Somewhat connected hand, rather. More importantly, though, I feel like it's just kind of, I wouldn't say throwing away my positional advantage, but I feel like in a situation where I'm definitely going to be 4-bet light, I definitely disagree with what I said a few years ago, in that this is definitely one of the more common spots I'm going to get 4-bet light, especially if the small blind is going to cold call my 3-bet at a reasonable percent. So all that added up, I feel like we're taking an incredibly profitable flatting situation, which has very high EV in my opinion, especially against a wide cutoff range, as I alluded to in my analysis from a few years ago, and really turning into an extremely marginal 3-betting spot, unless I am just extremely exploiting either a post-flop or pre-flop tendency of this player. And I don't have that information, so I literally had no information on this guy, besides the fact he was very aggressive. So I really do not like my analysis or my play here. And I definitely would have just called and taken the flop. But I obviously would not want as large of a pot, so that's obviously probably my result-oriented thinking back then is I would win larger pots if I 3-bet, but ultimately I was taking a pretty marginal situation that was high variance, and instead of a very very plus EV calling spot, and I should be calling very wide here on the button in this position, unless I have information my blinds are just squeezing it very high percent. Even then, that's debatable.